Hello and welcome to the Yukon Entrepreneur podcast series, a series all about how Yukoners are adapting their businesses during the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm your host, Carrie Johnston, and I'm filming today on the traditional territory of Champion and Ajax First Nations in beautiful Dakwakata-Haines Junction. And I'm joined today by Vanessa. Vanessa, please introduce yourself.
Hi, Carrie. Thanks for having me back. So most folks have a hard time with my last name, so this will be handy. This is the sounded out. So my first name is Vanessa. My last name is Ægirsdóttir, and I'm at my home, and I'm in the Kwanlundun territory and the Ta'anquechan Council First Nation territory, and this is just outside of downtown Whitehorse.
Well, thanks for joining us, Vanessa. And yes, welcome back. You were one of our guests in season 1, so it's wonderful to have you back again. So just tell us a little bit about what it is that you do as an entrepreneur.
Oh God, what don't I do? I wear every single hat that there is, but the short answer is I'm a jewelry designer and textile artist. I own a store in the Horwoods Mall called the Ægirsdóttir, but folks are most familiar with our fur brand, which is Wild Yukon Furs, and that is a specialty line of jewelry and housewares, and it's all made with Yukon First Nation sourced wild Yukon fur.
Wonderful. And how long have you had your business?
We opened in 2018.
Okay. And Vanessa, thinking back in time, what's your first memory of the pandemic when you realized that this was going to be a significant event in our history?
I was giving a talk last week, and I was describing my experiences. I was like the embodiment of Chicken Little. I was certain that the sky was falling. The pandemic happened like about a week after I came home from my honeymoon, and about 2 weeks before my birthday. So it was a time that was supposed to be really great, and then it ended up being really terrible. And so so the pandemic started at like early March, and then by the end of March, on my actual birthday, in the trying to be nimble and adapt quickly to the pandemic, I was trying to make what was previously a terrible website work, and it didn't work, and then it broke. And I had to nuke the entire website and rebuild it all on my birthday. You shouldn't cry on your birthday.
That's a core memory right there.
Yeah. Working through that one in therapy a little.
No kidding. So Vanessa, what have you learned about your business model during the pandemic? I mean, you just mentioned there the importance of a website, but what else are you learning?
Oh my goodness, we've learned so much. I think as any entrepreneur, you have these big dreams of places that you want to take your business to and how you want to scale and grow. And one of the biggest things is, like I just said, that, being nimble was key. We realized right away that we had to make big decisions really quickly and steer the ship in a new direction. And had we been a much bigger ship, the turns would have taken a lot longer to execute. So being small was really advantageous. Another thing that we learned through the pandemic was the importance of having, multi-channels of distribution. Most retail is, any store that is direct to consumer and they have a retail existence, but they also exist online, it's usually an 80-20 sort of cash flow stream, 80% coming from the bricks and mortar. But once that disappeared, we had to shift, and we saw 70% of our revenue coming from the website. So, having our eggs in more than one basket was certainly key. We got better at what we were doing online and trying to recreate the in-store experience and make the online shopping experience as rich as possible, and to replicate, the really critical elements like the connection and storytelling, try and, figure out ways to deliver that same kind of experience in the online purchasing experience for folks. And then the other thing that we had learned was, gosh, what was it? It was just in my head and now it's gone. There was one more thing. I think it was just mostly about being nimble, being able to move quickly. Oh, I know what it was. We had considered trying to cast a wider net and diversify these streams of income, in addition to having this questionable bricks and mortar, having an online presence. And then we were looking at doing wholesale as well, just trying to diversify ways to bring in revenue. But what we learned was that we're not a product that thrives in a wholesale environment, because we rely so heavily on storytelling being at the core of how we conduct business. Letting someone else tell our story for us just wasn't effective. We definitely tried it. We worked with influencers. We explored a bunch of different ways of partnering with other people and tried to educate them on how to best tell our story. But really the best person to tell our story is always us. So to this day, we remain a direct to consumer brand, and we're scaling with that being in the forefront of our decision making. That's one of the key metrics, is how can we honor the importance of the storytelling and that one-to-one relationship building kind of way of connecting with our customers.
Well, the storytelling works because as you were mentioning that, I was thinking about these fabulous earrings that I'm wearing that I picked up from your store just before Christmas time. And, I can tell the story in my head, and I can tell the story about the woman that mentored you into fashion and her fabulous shirt that she used to wear. And so that point of connection is coming through. So congratulations on that.
Thanks. That's good to hear. I'm glad it sticks, but there's the proof right there.
What are you learning about your customer? Who is your customer these days?
Well, our customer is about to shift a little. So for the most part, I've done some exercises that have allowed me to really define who my customer is in terms of the different segments that they occupy, how they identify sort of, in a gender-based context, what their education level is like, what their income level is like. And for the most part, I kind of have two core demographics, and sort of one of them is in the like 20 to 40 age group, and then the other is in that 40 to 60 age group, whether they're buying for themselves or as gifts, and what their motivators are. So having done the exercises early on in the pandemic, and then watching and seeing if the consumer behavior aligned with what I thought I understood, and seeing it be confirmed, has been a really validating exercise and a good practice to ensure that I kind of maintain that awareness of who those people are and what motivates them to make purchases. And again, that brings me back to the not choosing to go the wholesale route, because the storytelling and our company values, how much those have to align with the values of our customer, and understanding which values are held by which segment has been really key to not just surviving the pandemic, but continuing to see growth. Now, I had also indicated that, our customer base is shifting a little. And I say that because we have an opportunity coming up that we had originally wanted to pursue right before the pandemic began. The pandemic put everything on pause, and that was exploring a retail store in Skagway. So we're kind of back on the Skagway train, so to speak, now. And we're doing everything we can to get as ready as possible so that we can take what we know of the existing customer base between our local buyers and those who buy online, and to see how it applies to the audience that's in that cruise ship population.
Wow, so you're going international, going to the States.
Pulling the trigger.
Good for you. Well, yeah, I hear that they're expecting cruise ship passengers to be like closer to normal levels, hey?
I've heard some real optimistic reports. Folks are expecting it to be the best season they've ever had. So as long as it can at least be similar to what 2019 showed, I feel like with our conservative projections, we'll have a pretty exciting year.
Well, it's a wonderful place to be in that marketplace with the tourists coming in so reliably and so readily in a normal season. Leadership is inherent in all that we do as business leaders. What is it that you've learned about leadership over the past couple of years?
Oh my goodness. Well, as we've kind of gone through different iterations of having folks work with us in different capacities, whether it's been, trying to bring staff into the store, which is an ongoing challenge, of course, for the same reasons about the storytelling. No one can tell our story better than we can. But also with, when we're working with trappers that are providing us with fur, or when we're partnering with the Department of Tourism and making sure they understand what we represent and how we work, so that when they're bringing in the fam tours of the journalists and different media folks, that, that we are sharing the key points with them so that they can best represent us in an enticing way, so that we can then continue to tell the story on our own. So I think, as that leadership communicates, how that relates to those sorts of relationships, because we don't really have a whole lot in the way of a team. It's just me and my husband George. I think that leadership in that context just has to do with being consistent and being honest and being transparent, and also bringing a spirit of curiosity and humility and a willingness to learn, and being okay with standing in some uncomfortable places where maybe you have misinformation, or you have that strength of character to know that you don't know everything, and those have been some of the biggest learnings, especially over the course of the pandemic, when there's so much uncertainty.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. We've all had to adapt to this new normal. What has been one of the most, like, that adaptation that you're most proud of?
We're still here. I'm pretty goddamn proud of that. I mean, and not only am I just still here, we have seen steady growth since we began. We didn't just survive the pandemic, we've thrived. We've been published in international fashion magazines. In March of last year, we were published in Vogue. We were in Vogue, people. That is a big deal for a little Yukon designer. Like, I had set this standard for myself that if I could get into Vogue, that I'm allowed to do whatever the hell I want. So now I get to do whatever the hell I want. So it's a really exciting time to be alive, even though the pandemic has us all very tired. And there's other stuff going on in the world that's very, very heavy and bleak and makes us wonder, what the whole point is. If we can find little bits of sparkle and little bits of joy, I'm here to tell you it's worth looking for.
Well, that's pretty inspiring, and congratulations on being in Vogue. That was an aspirational thing when we were first met in season 1, and so it's amazing to see that you achieved it.
There it is. It happened. And and the funny thing is it's about, as entrepreneurs, we're whether we're in literal agriculture or not, we are all planting seeds. We are farmers. We are idea farmers. We are dream farmers. And you plant the seeds. You don't give up on them, and you just wait for them to grow. You have to have. There's so much faith when you do this kind of work in any industry. You have to have faith that it's going to work out. And when you're planting those seeds, like we understand in a literal biological context, if you put seeds in the ground, you're not going to stomp on them and yell and say, come out, come out, come out. You have to wait. We trust that if we wait, they'll emerge and then beautiful things will happen. And I think the same sort of principle needs to apply to how we conduct our businesses and how even within our relationships as well, right? You're planting the seeds and you're nurturing them and you're trusting that they will come to fruition, that they will happen. And the ones that are meant to bloom will bloom.
Well, that's a wonderful analogy, Vanessa. Vanessa, the public health measures have been restricted at times and challenging. Which have you found the most difficult with your business?
I think the one that I felt the biggest financial impact was the state of emergency that was called in November. It was terrible timing in retail. We generate the bulk of our revenue, comfortably 50% of our revenue in the last 2 months of the year. And when that state of emergency was called, I think even though not a lot changed in how we conducted ourselves, I think the assumption that it meant that we were in for the real deal and the gravity of what it spoke to, I think really frightened people. And for me, I saw a massive drop in revenue for November, and so that was disheartening, to have, we joked that there was tumbleweeds rolling down the hall of the mall because nobody was around. And that's really scary when you rely on those last 2 months of the year to get you through the next 3, 4, 6 months of the coming year. So that was one of the biggest things that we experienced as far as like really dramatic impacts. But social fatigue is something that, that we're all still dealing with. We still have to sanitize. We still have to wear masks. And I don't like having to police adults. I don't like having to say, please put your mask on, please sanitize, please put your mask on, please sanitize. We're very tired. We all know the rules. It's not like I get up in the morning and I'm like, I can't wait to put my mask on. No, we're having a video call. I put on lipstick because I'm not going anywhere. So yeah, we're all tired. And I when folks come in and share stories with me about, complaining about this service person or complaining about this lineup or this measure that's in place that's inconvenient, I try to diffuse these conversations by saying, what, none of us are our best selves right now. And I think the best thing we can do is just have as much compassion as possible because we're all tired. We're all tired. We're all doing our best. And we're all still trying to just put one foot in front of the other. So just have compassion.
Wise words, Vanessa. Pandemic-related supports. Yukon government of Canada have had a series of supports. Were you a participant in any of those? Did any of them benefit you?
Yeah, I did the Pivot program. And then there was an ECDEV one as well. That wasn't the same thing though, was it? No, there was the Business Relief Fund. Mm-hmm. So I benefited from a little bit of that. But the funny thing for me was that most of the funds I didn't qualify for because I wasn't operating at a loss. So I was experiencing a real smack to the revenue, but I was still making sales and still in business. Lights were on, doors were open. So I wasn't doing badly enough to qualify for funding, even though funding would have been really helpful. Mm-hmm. So I did Pivot, I did the Business Relief Fund. And then in last fall, I applied for Incubate North, which isn't like a pandemic related program, but I applied to that and I got into that one as well. So that's been really, all three of those have been really important, if for no reason other than to just give me something to focus on. Because with Pivot, it was project focused. And same with Incubate North, they're project focused. So even when things are starting to drag, or if it's feeling a bit bleak, or if we're kind of, just still kind of bearing the burden of the social fatigue, it's giving me a really productive distraction. I'm task driven. I have outcomes to try and achieve. I have accountability. I have meetings, so it's just keeping the momentum, keeping the pace, keeping me moving forward, even though some days I would like to just come home and get under a fuzzy blanket and watch Netflix.
Fair enough. Going forward, how are you thinking about your business differently? Where are you seeing your opportunity?
Skagway. Straight up Skagway. Like, we identified this quite a long time ago and started the wheels turning, and we were forced to pause. There was going to be no easy way to try and pull off Skagway. Even if we'd have been allowed to cross the border, there wouldn't have been anybody there to sell the products to. So, truly it was a blessing in disguise, because had we gotten into a lease, in early March of 2020, we would have been paying on a lease and no revenue to balance it with. So these things all work out how they're meant to. And I think, now that with the lease that we're negotiating right now, it's on our dream space. I don't know how things are all going to shake down, because, like I say, it's still a negotiation. We may not wind up doing things the way that we imagine, but, what I know for sure is that if it's meant for me, it'll work out. And if it's not meant for me, there's probably something better coming. And I just have to, again, have faith. I have to trust that things are going to go in a way that's going to serve me and my goals and my family and whatever's going to help me do the highest good for myself or for my community.
Vanessa, have you taken up any new skills to kind of better prepare yourself for the opportunity ahead?
Well, I've gotten really good at Googling. No, I'm kidding. I think one of the things that's worked out really well, like I said, is like with working in the Incubate North program, the ultimate project goal was the Skagway store. We had actually, the trajectory was for next summer, but this opportunity on a space has come up now. And so we're kind of accelerating the plan to try and execute it earlier. And so that means that I've had to kind of, look at this huge project of, immigration lawyer, US tax attorney, US corporate lawyer, Canadian attorneys, the employment stuff, and getting a place to live and a place to run the business, and importing, so I'm looking at this huge picture of all of these things and trying to arrange them in order of urgency and priority, and which is a long-term thing, and what's something I can just get crossed off the list today. And so I'm trying to pace myself and not pull off doing too many things at once, kind of calling too many people, getting confused, doing any of the jobs poorly. And so pacing myself has been really key to try and make this come together in a way that's going to be really effective and sustainable. Because really, we don't there's no real rush. There's this opportunity to get this space. If it works out for this summer, super. If the lease negotiations don't go the way that we're happy with, we wait. It's that simple. So in the meantime, I hustle, I make inventory. I'm winning no matter what, whether I'm in Skagway or here. I've got the product to sell, and that just makes my life easier, and it gives us more equity in our business, because we have all of these assets to leverage as well.
Mm-hmm. Cool. We've seen a lot of instability in the economy in the world, in Canada and the Yukon. What are you hoping for as we sort of rebuild and the economy hopefully stabilizes?
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, I think to have a stable economy bodes well for all of us that aren't employed by government, where we're relying on tourist dollars, we're relying on, a healthy economy to keep our own small businesses going, because so many of us do rely on the local consumer, the local demographic. If we have a healthy economy, then that benefits everybody in a way that even with the folks that are working with government, if they're employed by government, those dollars are being spent in our community. And so if we can entice people to continue to do that, and it keeps recirculating, then we keep, expanding our local wealth, which I think only bodes well for all of us in the long run and in the short run, really, because we have such a vibrant business community. We have so many specialized and unique, incredible businesses that it would be a real shame to see any of that negatively impacted by, any sort of downturn in the economy.
Mm-hmm. Any advice for emerging entrepreneurs?
Oh, I have three things. Whenever I get asked, what little nuggets would you leave with an entrepreneur? And there's three things that I always say. First of all, don't wait till you're ready. Have your idea, have a bit of an idea what you're going to do, have some knowledge, and then go for it. Learn on the job. Just go. If you wait till you're ready, you're going to wait forever. Don't do that. Start getting into it now. Roll your sleeves up, get dirty, do the thing now. Second piece of information tip that I would give is understand who your target market is. Don't ask your sister what she would pay for your widget. Don't ask your neighbor how much he would spend to hire you to do whatever service you're offering. Figure out exactly who your ideal customer is, what matters to them, what their values are. Really know who these people are, your dream person of like, who is going to be the bread and butter of your business. Like I have these 2 segments in mind. Figure out who those people are, what is important to them, how are you going to speak to them, and how are you going to deliver your product to them in a meaningful and sustainable way that allows you to be aligned with your values and deliver something that's really meaningful for them. And that's how you can add the best value and give yourself a really solid footing in the marketplace. So that's the second thing, know your target market. And the third piece of information, and this one sounds really fluffy and easy, and it's really actually super prickly and really hard. Whatever they are saying about you or thinking about you is none of your damn business. We all are spread so thin and we are so busy. Whatever you think a competitor is thinking about your business, or whatever you think that girl from high school is thinking about you and your business, you can't control it anyway. So tune it out, put your blinders on, focus, and just keep your eye on the prize and work your little biscuits off and get that goal done.
Thanks, Vanessa. Any aha moments or shifts in your worldview over the past couple of years?
Oh my goodness. Shifts in worldview, not a ton. I think I mentioned this in the beginning of our conversation. I think to come at life with a spirit of curiosity and humility is really, really critical. That's the only way I think that a person can grow with the least amount of growing pains possible. Growth is the point. We're supposed to change and evolve over time. And I think the more open-mindedness and open-heartedness that we can approach conversations and issues and opportunities and challenges, we're going to get the most out of it. And so these are already values and beliefs that I held, but through the pandemic, I've had lots of opportunities to practice it. So I would say that that's been one of the things I've relied on the most is when things are difficult or challenging, or I have an opportunity to learn, if I come at it with an open mind and curiosity and, almost a childlike spirit of being willing to just be comfortable with not knowing. I think that's been one of the greatest gifts for me, because I've learned some really incredible stuff and become a better person and a better parent and a better spouse and a better entrepreneur, all because of that approach.
Mm-hmm. What's been keeping you grounded? What's been your wellness practice?
Oh, this is the confessional time. My wellness practice is terrible. Actually, the best thing I do is I sleep. I'm a pretty consistent sleeper, and I protect my bedtime. We just renovated our house and we spent many months working till about 2 or 3 in the morning. So that was the exception to the rule, but that's just one of those things you have to do. But aside from that one weird little stretch of 3.5 months of no sleep, generally it's 7-8 hours a night, and I'm a really good sleeper. And because of that good sleep, allows me to knock out as much as I can during the day. That, and I try to stay pretty hydrated.
Wise words, certainly. Sleep and water.
Water, you can't go wrong.
Vanessa, thanks so much for joining in today. Do you have any final thoughts before we close out for today?
Yeah, we're all going to be okay. We're going to be okay.
Thanks so much, Vanessa. Have a great day.
Thanks for having me, Carrie.